A smile can hide 1,000 secrets, but when those secrets spill, love becomes a battlefield. Episode 7 of The Summer I Turned Pretty Season 3 isn't about sunshine and summer dreams anymore, it's about betrayal, heartbreak, and a choice that will change everything. Jere's shocking breakup doesn't just shake Belly's world, it sparks a storm that threatens to tear apart the Fisher brothers, the Conklin family, and every fragile bond holding them together. From the moment the episode begins, the cracks in Jeremiah and Belly's relationship can no longer be ignored. For weeks, Belly has been convincing herself that Jeremiah is her safe choice, the boy who makes her laugh, who promises stability, who swore he would never hurt her. But the truth has been pressing against her chest like a weight she can't carry anymore. Every time she looks at Jeremiah, she remembers Cabo. She remembers the betrayal he buried under charm and apologies. And the deeper she stares into his eyes, the more she realizes that forgiveness doesn't erase the wound. It only hides it for a little while. Jeremiah, too, is unraveling. His desperation to hold on to Belly has turned into a quiet fear that he can't shake. He sees it in her silence, in the way her laughter feels forced, in the way her smiles don't reach her eyes anymore. He knows she's slipping away from him, and the harder he clings, the more fragile their love becomes. This is not the Jeremiah who once lit up summer with his carefree energy. This is a man terrified of losing the only girl he's ever truly wanted, a man who knows deep down that Conrad still lives in her heart. The tension reaches its breaking point when Jeremiah finally blurts out the words that change everything: "I can't do this anymore." The breakup doesn't come in a grand, dramatic fight, it comes in the quiet of a moment that feels too heavy to survive. His voice shakes, his hands tremble, and for the first time, Jeremiah admits the truth he has been running from. He knows Belly's heart has never fully been his. He knows the shadow of Conrad has haunted their relationship from the very beginning. And as much as it destroys him to say it, Jeremiah walks away before Belly can. Belly's reaction is where the heartbreak sharpens. She doesn't scream. She doesn't beg him to stay. Instead, her silence says everything. Because the truth is, a part of her knew this was coming. A part of her has been waiting for the moment when the lies, the betrayals, and the weight of pretending would finally collapse. Her tears fall not only for Jeremiah, but for herself, for the girl who wanted so badly to believe in stability, who thought choosing safety would protect her from pain, only to learn that love without truth is just another kind of heartbreak. What makes this moment devastating isn't just the breakup itself, it's what it sparks. Because once Jeremiah steps away, the storm inside Belly can no longer be hidden. She's forced to face what she has been denying for months: her love for Conrad never died. Every glance, every memory, every unspoken word between them has been building to this. And now, with Jeremiah gone, there is no barrier left to shield her from the truth. But here's the twist: Conrad doesn't see Jeremiah's breakup as freedom. He sees it as destruction. He knows his brother's heart is shattered. He knows stepping into Belly's arms now would make him the villain in Jeremiah's story forever. And so Conrad does what he has always done: he tries to bury his feelings, to sacrifice his own happiness for the sake of peace. But this time, Belly won't let him. The breakup becomes the spark that ignites every buried secret. The Fisher house, once a place of laughter and warmth, now feels like a battlefield. Jeremiah's anger simmers just beneath the surface. Conrad's silence grows heavier by the second, and Belly is caught in the middle of a storm that feels impossible to survive. The love triangle isn't just messy anymore, it's explosive. Because Jere's decision to walk away doesn't end the story. It begins a war. Belly's heart feels torn between two worlds, the one she dreamed of and the one she has now. For so long, she believed Jere was the safe choice, the boy who loved her openly, who made her laugh, who promised her the kind of love that never fades. But deep down, there's always been a shadow, a name she whispers in silence: Conrad. And now, with Jere's breakup tearing through her heart, that shadow feels louder than ever. It's as if the very foundation of her love story is cracking beneath her feet, and no matter how hard she tries, she can't stop the collapse. Jere, on the other hand, is drowning in emotions he never wanted to face. For months, he pretended everything was fine, smiled through the pain, and convinced himself that Belly's heart was truly his. But the truth has been gnawing at him. He always knew he was fighting against Conrad, against a bond that was bigger than promises, bigger than time, bigger than him. Breaking up wasn't just an act of surrender, it was his way of setting himself free before the pain destroyed him completely. Yet, even in his decision, he is haunted by the thought that letting go of Belly means losing a piece of his soul. The breakup doesn't just wound Belly and Jere, it creates a storm around everyone connected to them. Conrad, who has tried to step back, finds himself pulled back into the fire. He sees Belly's pain, he hears Jere's frustration, and he knows deep down that his silence has become unbearable. The weight of his love, hidden for too long, now threatens to spill over, but the fear of hurting his brother keeps him chained. The tension between the Fisher brothers begins to crack wide open, and what started as a love triangle now feels like a battlefield where every glance, every word, every unspoken emotion cuts deeper than the last night at the summer house. The air is different. What was once filled with laughter and light now feels heavy with unspoken truths. Friends who once gathered freely now feel the sharp edges of choosing sides. Everyone can sense the shift, nothing is the same anymore. Even the smallest moments, like sitting together at dinner or walking by the ocean, are filled with a silence that screams louder than words. This is not just about young love anymore. This is about betrayal, heartbreak, and the fear of losing not just romance, but the family-like bond that held them together for so many summers, and Belly, she is at the center of it all. Every choice she makes feels like a knife cutting into someone she loves. She can't run from the truth any longer. The breakup with Jere has forced her to look into her own heart, and what she sees terrifies her. Because if her heart still beats for Conrad, then everything Jere feared is true. And if she admits it, she risks breaking the boy who has given her nothing but love. But if she denies it, she risks betraying herself. The walls are closing in, and Belly knows one wrong step could shatter everything forever. The breakup may have happened behind closed doors, but its echoes are loud enough to shake the foundations of Cousins Beach. Jere walks out carrying a heart that feels heavier than ever, and yet, the silence between him and Belly becomes the loudest part of their story. He thought letting go would bring some relief, but instead, it only leaves him stranded in an ocean of regret. Belly, on the other hand, is torn between anger and sorrow. She wanted to fight for what they had, but Jere's sudden decision left her no space, no warning, no chance to hold on. That sting of rejection doesn't just linger, it cuts deeper with every memory of their once bright summer. The group dynamics immediately shift. Conrad senses something is wrong, even before the truth fully surfaces. He's always been attuned to Belly's emotions, and now, the storm in her eyes tells him everything. But while part of him aches to comfort her, another part quietly wonders, was this the chance he never thought he'd get? The possibility that Belly and Jere's story has unraveled reopens the old wound of love triangles, the kind that no one wants to revisit, yet destiny seems determined to thrust them back into. Conrad knows better than to move too quickly, but in his silence, his presence becomes even more noticeable, even more dangerous to Jere, and Jere knows it too. The very thought that Conrad might step in fills him with a mix of jealousy and guilt. After all, he was the one who ended things. He was the one who claimed he couldn't handle the pressure anymore. Yet the sight of Belly turning toward Conrad for comfort threatens to undo him completely. His heartbreak turns into frustration, his regret into anger, not at Belly, not even at Conrad, but at himself for not being strong enough to hold on to what he had. Every laugh Belly shares with Conrad, every gentle glance they exchange, fuels the storm building inside Jere. The tension isn't just between the three of them. Their friends feel it too. The air around the group becomes thick, filled with unspoken words and suspicious glances. One wrong move could ignite a fire no one can control. Everyone is careful, everyone is on edge, but the truth is, the breakup has already drawn invisible lines in the sand. Lines that threaten to break friendships, divide loyalties, and reshape everything that once felt so secure, and then comes the cruelest part of it all, the beach, the sunsets, the memories of laughter and love, all the things that once held joy, now remind them of what's been lost. For Belly, every corner whispers of Jere. For Jere, every sound carries her name. They are trapped in a paradise that now feels like a prison, where the walls are made of memories they can't escape, but the question that no one dares to ask out loud hangs heavy in the air: is this breakup final, or is it just the beginning of something even more complicated, even more destructive? Because in Cousins Beach, nothing stays buried for long. Secrets always surface, hearts always clash, and love always demands a price. And the price of Jere's decision may be far greater than he ever imagined. The air at Cousins Beach had changed. And everyone could feel it. What had once been filled with laughter, playful teasing, and that unshakable summer magic was now weighed down by silence, stolen glances, and emotions that no one dared to put into words. Jere's breakup had not just broken his own heart, it had sent ripples through the entire house, leaving everyone unsettled. For Belly, it was the kind of heartbreak she had always feared but never fully prepared herself for. She had thought summer would heal wounds, but instead, it had exposed them. Now she was standing in the ruins of a love she thought would last, unsure whether she should fight for it or finally let it go. Jere, on the other hand, was caught in the storm of his own making. He had walked away, yes, but walking away hadn't brought peace. His mind replayed every word, every look, every unspoken promise that now lay shattered. He told himself it was for the best, that breaking things off would save them from future pain. But deep down, he knew it was more complicated than that. He wasn't just protecting Belly, he was protecting himself. He was afraid of losing her in the same way he had lost before, afraid of watching her drift into the arms of someone else, especially someone he had spent his whole life comparing himself to. The tension grew heavier whenever Conrad was around. No one said it out loud, but the unspoken truth lingered between every pause in conversation. Was Conrad the reason Jere ended things? Was Belly's heart still torn in ways she couldn't admit? The triangle they had all tried so hard to escape had found its way back, and this time, the cracks were deeper. Conrad wasn't trying to stir the pot, but his very presence was enough. Every time his eyes lingered on Belly, every time his voice softened when he spoke to her, Jere's insecurities flared like open wounds. And Belly noticed. She noticed it all, and the guilt pressed against her chest like a weight she couldn't carry. Night, Belly lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it all. She thought about Jere's laughter, the way he had once made everything feel easy, and how quickly that lightness had turned into something fragile. She thought about Conrad too, about the quiet intensity in his eyes, the way he never said much but still managed to make her heart stumble. It was unfair to love them both in different ways, unfair to carry the burden of their feelings while barely understanding her own. But what hurt most was the way Jere looked at her now. It wasn't with love or anger, it was with distance. And that distance was unbearable. Jere tried to mask his pain with forced smiles, pretending he was fine, but those closest to him could see the truth. His jokes felt hollow, his silences stretched too long, and his eyes told a story he didn't want to admit. He had always been the boy who wore his heart on his sleeve, but now, he was trying to hide it, and the effort was breaking him even more. He wanted to believe he had made the right choice, that letting Belly go was an act of love, but the emptiness that followed only left him questioning if he had made the biggest mistake of his life. Conrad wasn't blind to it either. He could see the way Jere was unraveling, and though part of him wanted to step in, he hesitated. He knew that any move he made would only make things worse, but doing nothing was just as painful. He was caught between loyalty to his brother and the pull of his own feelings for Belly. For years, Conrad had kept those feelings buried, convincing himself that it was better this way, that Jere deserved happiness more than he did. But watching them fall apart, watching Belly cry and Jere withdraw, stirred something inside him he couldn't ignore anymore. He wondered if fate was giving him another chance, or testing him in the cruelest way possible. Belly, torn between the two brothers, felt the pressure building. Everyone around her could sense it too. Even the smaller moments, sharing breakfast, walking to the beach, sitting in the living room, were now layered with tension so thick it was suffocating. Laurel, Susanna's absence, the weight of family memories, all of it added to the atmosphere of unease. Summer was supposed to be their refuge, but now it was a battlefield where every word, every look, every silence mattered more than it. As the days passed, the tension didn't ease, it grew. Friends who once found comfort in each other now avoided eye contact. Conversations ended abruptly. The once lively beach house became a place where emotions simmered dangerously. Close to the surface, ready to erupt at any moment. And through it all, Jere's choice hung over them like a shadow. A breakup that was meant to create distance had instead bound them all tighter in a web of confusion, jealousy, and longing. The question no one dared to ask out loud echoed silently. In everyone's mind, was this the end of Jere and Belly, or was it the painful storm they had to survive before finding their way back to each other? Jere himself couldn't answer that. Each time he looked at Belly, his heart screamed to run back, to undo the words he had spoken in anger and fear. But pride held him back. Fear held him back. And perhaps, deep down, love itself held him back, because love, in its rawest form, doesn't always choose the easiest path. Sometimes, it chooses the one that hurts most, and so, the summer that once promised laughter and love now stood on the edge of something dangerous. The storm had only just begun, and no one knew who would survive it unscathed. Jeremiah's breakup had already shaken the ground beneath Belly, but what came after was even more suffocating. Instead of clarity, she found herself standing in the middle of endless questions that refused to leave her alone. Every look, every word, every silence between the three of them now carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken truths. The summer that once promised warmth and light now felt like an endless storm, where every wave was stronger than the last. Belly couldn't escape the thought that Jeremiah's decision wasn't just about them, it was about a history she could never erase, a shadow she could never outrun. Conrad, who had always been the silent storm in her life, was now caught in the crossfire of emotions. His presence was no longer comforting but heavy, as if the breakup had dragged him back into a story he thought he'd closed. And Belly knew it. Jeremiah's heartbreak was Conrad's burden too. Jeremiah had walked away, but the wound he left wasn't his alone. It spilled into Conrad's silence, into Belly's confusion, into the air they all breathed. The beach house was no longer just walls and memories, it had become a battlefield of trust and betrayal. And with every passing day, the tension between the brothers grew sharper, like glass waiting to shatter. For Jeremiah, the breakup didn't bring peace. Instead, it became a mirror he couldn't escape. He had thought walking away would free him, but it only tightened the chains around his heart. He replayed every word, every tear in Belly's eyes, and every memory they had built together. The love was still there, he could feel it, but love had twisted into something painful. Something he couldn't hold without bleeding. And the more he tried to convince himself that it was the right choice, the more his heart betrayed him with whispers of regret. He was drowning in the very silence he had chosen, and the only thing louder than that silence was the knowledge that Belly was still in Conrad's orbit. The town itself seemed to turn against them. The summer nights, once filled with laughter and fireflies, now felt colder, darker. The boardwalk, the beach, the familiar places, they no longer brought comfort. Instead, they carried memories too heavy to bear. Belly couldn't walk past the pier without hearing Jeremiah's voice, without remembering the promises they once made. Conrad couldn't sit on the porch without feeling the ghosts of moments he had missed. And Jeremiah couldn't even look at the ocean without wondering if he had made the biggest mistake of his life. Every corner of their world was now painted with what they had lost, and the more they tried to move on, the more the past pulled them back. But what made everything worse was the silence between the brothers. Jeremiah and Conrad, who had once shared laughter and secrets, now shared only distance. Every glance was sharp, every word was heavy, and every silence carried the weight of betrayal. Belly was caught in the middle, pulled in two directions, unable to breathe. She loved them both in different ways, and that love was tearing her apart. She wanted to fix things, to go back to the days when love felt simple, but she knew those days were gone. Love was no longer a choice between two hearts, it was a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. Jeremiah's breakup didn't just end a relationship. It broke the balance of their world. It forced Conrad to face feelings he had buried, it forced Belly to question what love really meant, and it forced Jeremiah to live with the ache of regret. The storm inside each of them grew louder, and with every passing moment, it became clear, this was not the end of their story. It was only the beginning of something darker, something heavier, something none of them were ready for. The summer they thought they knew had turned into a battlefield of hearts, and the war had only just begun. As the weight of Jere's breakup settles into the atmosphere, the story takes a turn that no one could have predicted. The house that once echoed with laughter now feels heavy, as if the very walls carry the burden of unspoken words. Belly finds herself standing in the eye of a storm she never wanted, caught between two brothers whose love for her has always been as complicated as it was beautiful. But this time, it feels different. This time, the damage may be permanent. Conrad watches her with a kind of quiet pain. He has spent so long fighting his feelings, burying them beneath responsibility and self-control, but now, in the aftermath of Jere's decision, he cannot hide any longer. His eyes tell a story his lips refuse to speak, a story of longing, regret, and the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, fate has brought him one last chance. But Belly, overwhelmed by the chaos, doesn't know if she can open her heart again without breaking it into pieces. She has been here before, torn between the safety of Jere's warmth and the intensity of Conrad's love. And now, with everything crumbling, the question of who she truly belongs to haunts her every breath. Jere, on the other hand, tries to convince himself that the breakup was the right choice. He tells himself that letting go was an act of love. That freeing Belly means giving her the happiness she deserves. But when he looks at her, the ache in his chest tells another story. He still loves her. He still wants her. And as much as he pretends to be strong, the truth is that his heart is breaking in silence. The boy who always wore his feelings on his sleeve now hides behind forced smiles, but his eyes betray him. He is lost. He is hurting. And part of him wonders if he just made the biggest mistake of his life. The tension between the brothers grows thicker with every passing moment. Conrad's presence feels heavier now, more charged, as if the breakup has awakened something in him that can no longer be restrained. Jere senses it too, and it terrifies him. The thought of losing Belly is unbearable, but the thought of losing her to his brother, his own flesh and blood, is a wound deeper than words can describe. For years, they have danced around this unspoken rivalry, each trying to put Belly's happiness above their own desires. But now, with Jere stepping back and Conrad's heart laid bare, the fragile balance shatters. The love triangle that has defined their lives threatens to explode into open conflict. Belly herself is torn apart by guilt and confusion. She never wanted this. She never wanted to be the reason two brothers broke apart. Yet here she stands, the center of a love story that has become a battlefield. Her mind replays every memory: Jere's kindness, Conrad's intensity, the promises, the heartbreaks, the laughter, the tears. How can she choose when both of them own pieces of her heart? And yet, deep down, she knows that her silence, her hesitation, is only making the pain worse. She has to decide, but the weight of that decision feels unbearable. The night grows darker. And with it, the emotions intensify. Whispers of old memories linger in every corner of the house: the summers they spent together, the secrets shared under starlit skies, the moments that felt like forever but slipped away too soon. Everything is fragile now, balanced on the edge of heartbreak and hope. One wrong word, one wrong step, could destroy not just their relationships, but their family bonds, their futures, and the very foundation of the world they have built together. As the episode draws toward its climax, the question hangs heavy in the air: is Jere's breakup the end of a love story, or the beginning of something far more complicated? Will Conrad finally confess the truth he has carried for so long, or will his silence once again push Belly away? And most of all, will Belly find the strength to follow her heart, even if it means breaking it in the process? The answers remain hidden, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. But one thing is certain: nothing will ever be the same again. The summer that once promised joy and innocence now carries the weight of love, loss, and choices that will echo through their lives forever. The story is no longer just about who ends up with whom, it is about sacrifice, healing, and the painful beauty of growing up. And as we leave episode 7 behind, we are left with a single haunting truth: love is never simple, and sometimes, the hardest battles are the ones we fight within ourselves.